didn't win, she lost. And you know,
Donald Trump knows the economy we build is strong and getting stronger. He knows.
take a victory when she had a very bad night. Do you see that poll? We're going to put it up.
Trump also said,
A little stuff that she doesn't want to talk about.
you're the reason Kamala Harris
Can't. Who the hell can't?
won't forget. I'm betting you won't stop caring. Donald, I got bad news for you, pal. It's too late.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special Inside the Americas from Miami, Florida. Today marks the very last edition of the show in its current format. And coming up, we'll take a look back at some of the many places across the Americas we've taken you to over the years. We'll also zoom in on the latest from this year's U.S. presidential campaign and the hot-button issue of abortion. You'll see how a series of recent electoral wins for reproductive rights groups could be bad news for Republicans in red states like here in Florida. I'm Jeannie Godula. Until recently, Florida had two native sons in the Republican race to the White House, current Governor Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. Well, now that DeSantis is out of the race, Florida conservatives are lining up behind the former president. A recent poll showed that if Trump were to face Joe Biden today in a rematch of the 2020 presidential election, Trump would win Florida by more than 10 points. But a lot can still happen between now and November 5th.
On the banks of the Rio Grande in Texas, around 100 protesters have been camping for days. They call themselves God's Army, and they're here to fight what they call the invasion of migrants from across the border in Mexico. With their flags, shirts and stickers, they all praise the man they see as their leader, Donald Trump. All of them, even their dogs, want to see the back of Joe Biden.
I want to say that I've done everything I could possibly do to save this country, to make it a better place, to save it from the evil Democrats who are weaponizing the FBI.
Former President Trump has put immigration at the heart of the campaign. For now, the billionaire is leading the race for the Republican nomination against his sole rival, Nikki Haley, his former ambassador to the UN. Trump has won in Iowa and New Hampshire. The next showdown is South Carolina on the 24th of February.
We've won almost every single poll in the last 3 months against crooked Joe Biden. Almost every poll. And she doesn't win those polls. And just a little note to Nikki. She's not going to win. She's not going to win.
But unlike Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Haley continues to stand her ground against Trump. She's quick to point out polls which predict she'll win over Joe Biden if the two were to go head-to-head.
It takes 1,215 delegates. He has 32 delegates. I have 17 delegates. And let me tell you something, I'm not going anywhere.
In a bid to shore up votes, Biden's immigration policy is sounding increasingly like Trump, his likely Republican rival. But their opposing views on abortion reflect a deep divide that's sure to play a role on the 5th of November. On the economy, Biden says his record speaks for itself.
Donald Trump knows the economy we build is strong and getting stronger. He knows that while it's good for America, it's bad for him politically.
The Democratic and Republican electoral marathon continues until the 8th of June, by when all U.S. states and territories will have chosen their candidates to run the final leg in the race to the White House.
One of the hot-button issues in this year's U.S. presidential campaign is abortion, especially here in Florida. The state already has a very restrictive 15-week abortion ban. And the Florida Supreme Court is now weighing two decisions linked to a new law that would prohibit abortion after 6 weeks, when most women don't even know that they're pregnant. But pro-choice activists are working to put an amendment on the ballot in November that would give Florida voters the right to decide whether or not to enshrine abortion rights in the state constitution.
Thousands of petitions saying yes to women's right to choose. These activists in Florida have gathered enough signatures to see the question of enshrining abortion rights in the state constitution appear on the November ballot. But one major hurdle remains. The Florida Supreme Court must approve the text of the proposed amendment. Attorney General Ashley Moody has requested that it be disqualified, saying the language could mislead voters. Since the 2022 reversal of Roe v. Wade, several states have voted to preserve abortion access in the Constitution. In November, Ohio became the 7th state to do so.
This was huge because we were up against a potential return of a 6-week abortion ban, which is obviously before most people know that they are even pregnant. It was incredibly damaging for the 80+ days it was in effect. We saw an over 800% increase in out-of-state travel for people seeking not only abortion care, but also miscarriage care.
We love babies, yes we do!
Anti-abortion activists continue to make their voices heard too. In January in Washington, D.C., thousands gathered for the annual March for Life. They say the end of Roe v. Wade does not mean the end of their campaign.
We haven't stopped because of Roe versus Wade. That, it is more than just one court decision. It is about all of the laws that violate human dignity.
16 U.S. states have made abortion illegal from conception or outlawed it after 6 weeks. Several others have put heavy restrictions in place. It's shaping up to be one of the central themes of the U.S. presidential campaign. Joe Biden says the biggest threat to women's rights is his likely Republican challenger.
The person most responsible for taking away this freedom in America is Donald Trump. He said, and I quote, "There has to be punishment for the women exercising their reproductive freedom."
The Republican presidential frontrunner has continued to paint pro-choicers as extremists.
We will defeat the radical Democrat policy of extreme late-term abortion, and we will bring everybody together to protect our precious unborn babies in a very, very big way. And now you have the power to do it because we terminated Roe v. Wade.
But that power may yet be countered at state level, and not just in Florida. Some 10 states could see proposals to enshrine or strengthen abortion rights on the ballot in November. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, every ballot measure to protect or expand access to abortion has been successful. All of those seeking to restrict access, even in conservative states, have failed.
Over the years, Inside the Americas has taken you across the continents, whether it was on the campaign trail in Colombia or Brazil, uncovering the health crisis in New York 20 years after 9/11, or following in the footsteps of civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr. in his hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. Inside the Americas has continually brought you all the news from north to south.
Merci.
Welcome to Bogota, Sao Paulo.
And here at NASA,
Here with the storming of the U.S. Capitol.
due from Cape Canaveral. We're now in the Russell Senate office building where some of the senators have their offices, and they can use underground corridors like this one to get from their office to the Senate without even having to go outside.
We're gonna beat Trump!
Well, it's the day after the concert, and none other than Bernie Sanders has shown up to do a spontaneous rally here in Austin, Texas. And as you can see, the crowds are pretty ecstatic.
My father tried to sexually abuse me. When I finally told my family, they didn't believe me. So they threw me out. And I didn't want to fall into prostitution or deal drugs. I decided to join the guerrillas.
We had to fight through our sufferings and struggles, our heartbreaks and our pain. we had to fight. Obstacles and hurdles that a lot of families would have gave up, and like in this movement, a lot of families do give up.
So what was Joe Biden like on campus? What was his reputation?
He was very affable, well-dressed, and good-looking. The girls liked him. So.
Does racism still affect you, Bernice A. King, today?
By many means, especially systemically. I mean, I don't have the people saying nigger to me or anything like that. But I live in a black neighborhood in a certain zip code. It's hard for me to get certain services. We don't service that side of town. So they're buzzwords, you know, we don't service that zip code. Usually that means we don't come to the black community.
Well, it's nearly sunrise here at Cape Canaveral, and we're waiting for the Orion test to be conducted in the distance about 15 kilometers away from here. And you'll notice we're right next to the sea here, which means that if the capsule does have to come down, it can come down in the water, and that limits the chances of any civilian casualties.
Launch vehicles nearing AA2, launching.
It's been an incredible 17 years. Well, that wraps it up for this very last Inside the Americas. Thanks for watching, and thanks as well to our producers, Joe Cockrell, Sonia Barritello, and Camille Février, and to executive producers Claire Hopes and Stephanie Cheval. Thanks as well to my French presenting twin, Elisabeth Alain, for all the good laughs out on the road. Inside the Americas is over, but never fear, our coverage of both North and South America continues. Be sure to stay tuned for a series of special reports from the U.S. presidential campaign from here in Miami, Florida. See you soon.